Early morning in the detective's bedroom. With the threat of not only the trappers but the Anunnaki hanging around, it's decided Unit Bravo and I should stick together for the next few days. Whether that's for them to protect me from trappers or me to protect them from the Anunnaki, I'm not entirely sure. As I shut the door to my room, I drag my phone out of my pocket and search for my contacts. My thumb hovers over Verda's name. He's the only one who knows I'm working with Unit Bravo in this case, as well as their true identities, so he's likely the only one who could properly cover for me at the station while I'm away. But will he? He's already terrified enough without me dragging him further into it, but how else can I explain my absence? I'm starting to run out of believable excuses. I suck in a breath, press my thumb down, and listen for the call to connect. It rings for a very long time, until Verda finally picks up.
Detective Langford.
He croaks from the other end, an awful tightness to the way he says my name. I hold back a wince. Sure. I hesitate, half wondering and half hoping that there might be a friendly greeting tacked onto his statement. There isn't, so I speak instead to fill the horribly dragging silence. Hey, Verda, I begin, clearing my throat at the slightly awkward strain to the words. I have a favor to ask.
You're my superior, detective. You don't need to ask favors,
he retorts. I halt in the corridor as a sting coughs through me at his terse statements. Verda. A strong sigh sounds from the other end.
I'm sorry, Jules. That was uncalled for. I will help if I can. What is it you need?
I need to take some time away from the station. Would you be able to cover for me while I'm away? Dead air greets me, long enough that I glance at my phone screen to make sure the call is still connected.
And the reason for your time away is due to...
Another silence paused before. Other business? Yes, that kind of other business, I affirm. I can't even hear him breathe before he hurries out.
I will do my best, detective.
The call clicks off and I drop my gaze to the floor as my chest squeezes. It takes a moment before I can continue down the maze of hallways. Heading to the kitchen, I'm more happy than surprised to find Farah waiting for me. Good morning, I say, heading towards the fridge to see what Nat has kindly stocked for breakfast for me. My view is blocked when Farah dips beneath my arm, holding the door open so that she can stand directly before me with her back to the penetrating chill of the refrigerator. Morning, she replies with a radiant smile, leaning close to plant a soft kiss on my lips. I momentarily forget all about my hunger as butterflies fill my stomach instead. How am I supposed to get breakfast with you right here? The words leave me through a light laugh. Oh, please, she rolls her eyes and rocks back on her heels. We both know I'm a better snack than anything in there. Sure. I shrug, unable to hold back my smile as Faraz's expression drops. I mean, I pause for a moment. Suppose you're not wrong. Her eyes sparkle with a grin once again. You had me worried there for a second. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I chuckle, reaching around her to grab a bottle of juice. So is it just us for research today? Yes, it is, and I had to work extra hard to make sure it is just us, so let's make the most of it. I thought the others had extra patrol duty because of the increase in trappers, I ask, taking a seat at the table and opening the bottle, enjoying the burst of citrus that explode from it as I do. Farah plops into the chair beside mine. Well, yeah, but you can imagine how Ava reacted when she realized that meant it would just be you and me. A smirk perks the corner of her lips. Alone? You expecting something more exciting than staring at stuffy books all day? I tease with a laugh. She leans close and trails her tongue slowly across her upper lip, sending my stomach into a whirl of heat. I can always hope. She stands from her chair with a lazy stretch, and I do my best not to focus on the tempting way her chest rises as she does. But there's no way I'm staying cooped up in the library all day today, she comments, glancing out of the window to the sunshine dappling through the glass. I can almost see the light bulb which pings inside her head. You eat breakfast and then meet me outside. I open my mouth to respond, but she's already zoomed away in a flash, making the newspaper on the edge of the desk flutter with her speed. 15 minutes later, outside the warehouse. After a quick breakfast, I do as requested and head outside. But the overgrown wilderness that serves as the warehouse's gardens makes finding Farah a difficult task. I eventually stumble through a break in some bushy foliage and onto a smartly cut lawn. A fresh flower border has been cut around the square area, a few plants spreading their new leaves out with blossoms, adding splashes of summer color. Farah is already sitting on a rusted bench with her feet up, the old seat lilting slightly to one side. She glances over to me when I enter. You took your time. I'm only just getting used to navigating inside this place. It's going to take time to get used to the outdoors, too. I respond. My gaze passes over the piles of books gathered about the bench, as well as a couple of laptops and a spread of notepads. Wow, you've been busy. It only took you a few minutes to get it all up here. She leans her head back, eyes fluttering closed, letting the light of the morning pool across her face. This is way better than in there. I settle onto the sunshine-warmed grass by the bench, smiling as Farah slides off the seat to join me on the ground. So where do we start finding out about this Anunnaki? Your call. This kind of thing isn't really my area, she offers. Sure, how about starting with the myths from Babylon? A stack of old books sits nearby, so I grab the top one, the movement sending a waft of dust to plume from the thick leather cover. Should start at the beginning. Fra nods. So Babylon then? That's where Nat said their stories came from first. I give a hum of agreement. Start at the beginning and work our way forwards. That's okay with you? Fra nods and stretches out on her side beside me, flicking open one of the books. Sure thing, babe. And so we both settle down to a long day of research ahead. 3 hours later. The summer sun has moved directly overhead, but thankfully the thick canopy of the oak tree nearby gives us enough dappled shade to continue on in the blazing heat. The two of us had started the morning out separately, sat together but apart enough to give us each space, but as the sun had steadily drifted higher now... Sure. We've ended up sitting right beside each other, her side leaning against mine as we work. I shift beside her and she lowers the file she'd been reading in order to glance over at me. Found anything? She asks. Placing down the book I'd been holding, I shake my head. Nothing. You? I found some pretty interesting stuff about how Anunnaki are categorized in the agency. She spreads out the file, the notes inside neatly typed and listed, and nods to a certain section. Seems like they're classified as celestial beings, as all angel-type species are. Angels? I ask, shooting my gaze to hers. Seriously? Well, yeah. She then breaks into a smile as she nods. I forget you haven't been around all this stuff very long. They're a pretty impressive bunch. No wonder you humans begged them for religious stuff. But they aren't anything to do with that. Jeez, no. Especially not some of the Celestials I've met, she replies with a snort of laughter. I take the folder as Farah passes it to me, her finger indicating a smaller paragraph near the bottom. Seems like someone theorized that angels might just be a subspecies of Anunnaki, but it was never proven. Farah tugs the folder from my grasp and throws it to one side, a few of the papers almost spilling out. But I think we're seriously overdue a break. I can't exactly disagree. My eyes have gone fuzzy from the amount of information I've been sifting through, all of it useless. Let's take in the sights, especially because I spent all last week making sure this place was a sight. She spreads an arm out around the contained garden space. The flowers in bloom give off a waft of sweet nectar in the summer sun. I chose the flowers. I smile. It explains why there's such an eclectic mix of blooms. I lean back on my hands, tipping my head up and drawing in a long breath of the fresh air. Farah settles closer up against me, mimicking my motion, her eyes closed with a contented smile on her face. I always imagine Wayhaven as a quiet place, but this is truly quiet. I can hear the soft buzz of bees as they bounce from flower to flower, the faint whisper of a breeze as it kisses the leaves above us, and even the birds singing their cheery calls in the distance. It's hard to remember the last time I felt this at ease, this peaceful, this happy. And I'm well aware a lot of it stems from the vampire who's now reaching over towards me to brush her hand against my cheek. She smiles at me. What are you thinking about? You know what? The actual true answer most of the time. I ease my shoulders up to a relaxed shrug. Nothing much, just enjoying the moment. Then let's enjoy the moment completely instead of getting stuck reading, she calls, bouncing up and onto her feet in a swift, agile motion. And just how do you suggest we do that? I ask, standing up as well and giving a slight wince as my body unfurls from its seated position after so long. A mischievous smirk catches her expression. I'm so glad you asked. She reaches out to take my hand and leaves me behind her a few paces around the gargantuan trunk of the oak tree. On the other side, hanging from a branch nearly as sturdy as the tree itself, is a rope swing. It's a simple construction, a sturdy rope anchored to the branch above with a large knot at the bottom to act as the seat. Quaintly rustic. Made it myself, Farah says, letting go of my hand to fold her arms as she gives a small nod of pride. Pretty good, right? It's certainly unexpected, I say through a breathy laugh. So do you want to go first? I'll push you. She offers, making a gentle shoving gesture as she smiles. You do realize what Ava will do if she finds out, right? I say with a laugh. Oh, I can imagine, but it'll be so worth it. She spreads a hand out towards the swing, leaning closer to me with a smile that sets a pleasant shiver sweeping across my skin. You know you want to. All right. That's more than enough convincing for me. All right then, I reply, shifting closer to the swing with a slight bubbling of excitement as I approach. It takes me a minute to get myself balanced on the uncomfortable knot of rope that forms the seat of the swing, but I manage to wrap my legs around it and cross my ankles in order to stay on. Ready? Fra asks, her hands gently spreading over my back. Ready, I reply with a nod. The summer day rushes over me in a warm breath as I swing forwards. The sunlight bursts across my face as I swing out of the dappled shade of the tree, before I sway back into the coolness the canopy provides. I close my eyes, letting Farah's gentle motions propel me forwards once again. I allow myself to simply enjoy the feelings of the fresh day, and the blissful, freeing sensation of being suspended in the air of the swing, on the swing. I'm not sure how long it's been, but when I eventually open my eyes, I'm swinging far higher than I expected. It seems I'm practically horizontal to the ground at one point, the leaves of the tree fast approaching ahead of me. My grip tightens on the rope on instinct, a flicker of fear licking up my spine and causing my balance to wobble. But on my next swing down, Faraz's hands plant firmly against my back to bring me to a standstill. That would hurt. Are you alright? She asks, concern making the words rushed. I nod. Yeah, just hadn't expected to be swinging quite so high. Sorry, she replies, glancing away for a second with a wince. I kind of got distracted watching you. Me? I blurt out. Seriously? I expect her usual dazzling smile or even a charming comment, but instead she actually shies away and brushes down the skirt of her dress. Well, she mumbles, giving a half-hearted shrug and turning back to meet my gaze. You just make me feel a lot of things. She holds up her hands. All good things, but it just surprises me sometimes, just how much I feel them. True honesty pours out on every word, the sound of it like a siren's call to me. I grip the rope tightly as it sways a little, as though the swing can sense the overwhelming rush of happiness that surges through me in this moment. Really? Really, she replies in a low whisper. A pleasurable shiver vibrates across my skin, a small breath leaving me, and my heart makes a thud against my ribs so hard I lose my voice. Whatever hesitation seemed to overcome her before, she shrugs it off in order to grab the rope and tug me closer, skyrocketing my pulse into an erratically excited pace. Go on then. I try to remember to force myself to breathe as her fingers trace up the curve of my back and over my shoulder, eventually cupping my cheek. She bends down to me, and I just see the hint of a smile before my eyes flutter shut and she covers my lips with hers. It's warm and soft, but grows deeper as I open my mouth to hers and fall completely into the moment. Each kiss feels new with Farah, as though it's our first kiss, every kiss. The heat which simmers between our bodies flows across me like flames licking at my skin. The smooth motion of her lips across mine draws a moan out of me I can't stifle. The need in her grip as her fingers tangle into my hair is something I return wholeheartedly. But it's not just a lustful need, it's a need for more. I need all of her, completely. I'm encouraged off the swing by Faraz's temptingly roaming hands, neither of us noticing as I almost stumble in our haste to be as close as possible. Her breath washes over my cheek as she trails kisses across it before moving back to kiss me once more. We walk backwards together towards a clearer spot, not caring about our path as we're too consumed by each other. That is until she almost falls completely backwards when her foot catches on something behind us. Ah, shit, she calls, just about avoiding the avalanche of books that comes crashing towards her feet. Are you alright? I ask through a ragged breath, my body not caught up to reality yet and still very much sizzling with Farah's touch. Will be when we get back to what we were doing. She purrs as though the almost trip had never happened. I smile, happy to be returned to a moment where it's just me and her. That is until something catches my eye on the ground. Spread across the page of one of the books is a sketched sepia picture of a very familiar being. I kneel down and drag the book closer to smooth out the page. And there he is. Well, sort of. This age-faded drawing is of a female Anunnaki, notes and sketches made of her wings and body. A scroll of tiny cursive handwriting marks the page. I found it, I mumble before flicking my head up in sudden excitement, waving a hand at Farah to take a look. Farah tips her head closer to peer over my shoulder at the book. That's so obviously an Anunnaki. How did we not see this one before? She pinches the cover of the book in order to tip it up slightly and look at the title. It's some old guy's journal. No wonder I didn't see it. I was only looking at the actual research stuff. My eyes dart to a particularly messy section of the notes that's less discolored than the rest. The Anunnaki, as with most celestial beings, are some of the most powerful in the known worlds. I roll my eyes. Wonderful. Don't be like that. Just think, you met one of the most powerful beings in the world and made him run away from you. Fra bursts out a laugh. That's pretty awesome. I half shrug, not having thought of it that way, but now a small well of confidence stirs in my chest. Fra stares down at the page with a frown and continues reading. But for all of their power, they have a defining weakness. She glances at me. Sounds promising. I lean over and take over reading aloud. They are a soul bonded species of beings, weak to the one bond that they may form with another. If a bond is formed, there is no way to break it, and the celestial being is bound to their soul bond's bidding, or faces being weakened by the bond, sometimes fatally so. As that statement processes, I give a shake of my head. Hmm. Sure. A sadness sinks into my stomach at this information. So the Anunnaki we faced may be being forced to do this. Oh, that makes me all kinds of uneasy, Farah comments, giving a grimace and a shake of her head. Soul bonding is extreme. I stare over at her with wide eyes. You know what it is? Sure, it's rare even in the Echo world, but it was about. Didn't always exactly end well. Hold on. She begins fishing through the pile of agency reports, throwing some to the side in a messy heap as she continues to search. I'm pretty sure I read it mentioned somewhere already today. I help search, flicking open files and examining the reports inside as fast as I can. Oh, here. Farah calls, snapping up a handwritten report and placing it into my lap. I knew I'd seen it. I take the papers, my gaze drawn directly to the words we're speaking of. Unit Tango were successful in arresting a group of trappers at the edge of Wayhaven's borders. We're unsure what they were attempting, but it looks like some kind of ritual. We consulted Chongso of Unit Romeo, who said the ritual appeared to be attempting some kind of soul bonding effect. But according to him, soul bonding is connected to soul magic. What was performed here would have mimicked the effects, but not been a true soul bond. Huh, I let out. When was this? She checks the corner box of the report. Looks like a little while ago. A few months. I turn to face her with a tight frown. Do you think that Mr. Birdman might be the product of their experiments? As she finishes my thought before blowing out her cheeks. I've never heard of anyone successfully imitating a soul bomb, and seriously, so many people have tried. But I guess it's possible they finally cracked it. I spring up from the blankets, the report grasped firmly in one hand. We better tell the others. Farah leaps up onto her feet beside me and takes my free hand. Lead the way, babe. We walk back towards the house, possibly taking longer than necessary, just to enjoy each other's company for a few moments longer. Inside the warehouse, we catch the rest of Unit Bravo just coming in from their extra patrols, so we steer them into the living room in order to explain our findings. So you think the trappers might be controlling the Anunnaki through this? Nat settles down on the sofa in order to glance at the report with a frown before looking back up to us. Soul bond? A false one, I correct. It would make for a hell of an achievement if they did pull it off, Farah states, shifting in the armchair that we've both squished ourselves into together. The rest of Unit Bravo all flick their gazes to her. You know what that is? Morgan asks after blowing out a stream of cigarette smoke, leaning further against the fireplace. Sure, Farah replies before grinning. Wait, are you saying that none of you do? They all shake their heads. Her grin widens. Then I guess it's up to me to play teacher. She bounces up from her seat and heads to the front of the room, throwing a look over at Morgan. Morgan rolls her eyes but does slink away to the other wall to allow Farah control of the room. A soul bond is seriously rare in the Echo world, so I imagine it's even rarer here. She pauses and tilts her head. Or maybe it's more common between supernaturals with humans. We can figure that out later, Ava states, gesturing with a splayed hand for Farah to continue. A soul bond is a connection between, usually, two people that's formed by magic. She holds up the index finger of both hands before twining them together. Two souls so meant to be in each other's lives that the magic is too powerful to break. She lets her hands drop as she shrugs. At least, usually on one side anyway. Generally, only certain types of supernaturals are susceptible to soul bonding with another. I move closer to Farah. And what happens when the soul bond is formed? I think it depends on the supernatural, but from what I heard back in the Echo world, usually the one not susceptible to the soul bond magic can have a pretty tight leash over the one that is. Fry explains through a grimace. Hmm, sure. I glanced at the others with a growing frown. It's no wonder the trappers were looking for a way to fake it. But the question is, did they accomplish it? Nat adds, hunching forwards with a heaved sigh. With the way the birdman was acting, I would say yes, Farah replies. Ava paces a few steps in front of the window. Whether real or not, it would seem the trappers are using something like this to keep a hold over the Anunnaki. That is what we need to deal with. Magic like this is powerful, Nat comments after taking a closer look over the report. But if the trappers are forcing it, then it's going against the nature of magic itself. It will be strong but highly unstable. That should make it easier for us to find a way to break through it. And we have Jules, Morgan adds, pointing over at me. They can actually beat that guy, which means we have a chance even if we can't break the bond. I'm not sure if her confidence in me helps to inflate my ego or make me more anxious. I shake my head and focus back on the conversation. Whatever we do with the Anunnaki, there is also one glaring thing we haven't discussed. Ava raises a pale brow. Which is? Who is actually controlling him? I state, then look to Farah. It's only one person controlling him, right? She nods. Yeah, that's the most likely. Then it's not all of the trappers, just one of them. I lean back in my seat. Maybe you should be focusing on that particular person. Ava takes a long breath before nodding. Valid point, Detective. I'm all prepared to bask in a rare praise from the commanding leader when my phone chirps in my pocket. Dragging it out, I only just hold back a groan at the message on the screen. It seems we have another problem. What's wrong, babe? Farah asks, moving back to squeeze into the armchair beside me once more. I hold up my phone so that they can all read the message from Captain Sung. I've pushed the blood drive paperwork through. It will be earlier than expected, in a couple of days. Don't forget your presence is mandatory. Ava pinches the bridge of her arched nose before shaking her head. I'd forgotten this issue. We should work out some kind of plan for this too, Nat suggests. Fra leans against me and places a hand on my leg. We're gonna have so many plans soon, I'll forget which one I'm meant to be doing. For now, the blood drive situation needs to take priority, Ava decides with a stern nod. It's the immediate threat. It's just a small town blood drive, I remind her. One that could have dire consequences if we're not prepared, she replies. After that less than encouraging pep talk from the team leader, we all rise from our seats and head out. I'm thankful for the break, though I can't deny today was more productive than I thought it would be. Although we may only have found a little on the Anunnaki, all that research has seriously boosted my supernatural knowledge in general, and that can never be a bad thing. Next chapter.